finally, it is Phil and Sam. Welcome back.
Feels like a
Where
long
have you
time.
been?
Where haven't I been? Been to Borovet skiing, I've been to Shetlands, and I've been poorly. It's my payback for
You've
holidays.
been poorly?
Oh, let me tell you.
You should have told us about
We could
it.
have a whole episode on how poorly I've
I thought we
been.
had. I thought we had a series.
Death's door.
But you are here,
I'm here.
alive.
Yeah, my voice isn't great, but I will soldier on like the little trooper I am.
Thank you. I'm sure we all appreciate it.
You're very welcome. So in the meantime, you've had an episode with Molly.
Yes. Sounds like we fell out.
Not that kind of episode, but you recorded an episode with Molly. What was that about? I haven't listened to it.
I can't remember. It was so long ago.
Was it chatting about what it's like to be married to an estate agent?
I think so.
Was it all positive?
Well, I don't know. You have to listen to it. I genuinely can't remember, to be honest. We didn't fall out over it, so it can't have been that bad. We'll stick it in the notes, but it was an interesting exercise. And then there was an episode about a very sexy topic, which was anti-money laundering, which if you haven't listened to, I would recommend you do go back and listen to, because the amount of agents that got fined for such ridiculous things.
What do you get fined for with
unbelievable.
AML?
The most simple and the most common I could see was that people weren't registered with HMRC.
And do you have to re-register every year?
Yeah. Yeah, which I think is the problem. But when you open an estate agents, nobody comes to you and be like, oh, by the way, like HMRC aren't bothered coming to you and going, oh, are you registered with us?
It should be like a pack that you get where you have to, so you know exactly what you need to do, especially if they bring in any more legislation about things like training and certification. We need it all to be delivered to us in a way that we don't have to go looking for it.
Yeah, and I didn't realise how common it was. And then we had a mastermind event up here in the Lakes where after that that notice had come out, we decided to have a session on AML and just the basics, really. We asked George, who has been caught in this before.
George Verdis, hello,
HMRC, to run through step by step every single little thing you do, because the amount you've got to do is pretty ridiculous. And there were people in the room that hadn't even registered, that weren't buying the land reg, which to us sounds crazy because we do it, but I guess if you've never been told to do it.
One thing I don't understand is why does it sit with us and not with solicitors? Because you've got to prove your identity anyway to a solicitor. They've got to do all their due diligence. Why are the estate agent doing it?
Yeah,
it's like going and buying, I don't know, an expensive handbag. Let's say you go and buy a £1,000 handbag and them asking you for all this information. Where's the money coming from? You know, where does it all stop? Why is it our responsibility to do it?
I don't think it should be, but it ultimately is. And the education out there about it is awful. And we use Rightmove. They put seminars on and stuff. So we thought that we were 100% with everything. And then when I took Edward through everything we discussed, there were one or two things that we weren't doing.
Right.
That we now are. And I was telling Edward last week that you and I buy lots of properties through the company. I'm currently buying a family home. No one ever asks me for anything.
That's crazy.
Anything.
That is crazy.
They just announced that they can give you some money for grassing on people, can't they? For tax avoidance or whatever, or tax evasion. If they want to bring something out where they can give me multiple hundreds of thousands of pounds to tell them who hasn't AML'd me, we can have a conversation. Anyway, back to the topic of today's podcast. It's all about auditing your agency. So we're getting towards halfway through the year somehow. And it's the busy time of the year. It's the time where, if you haven't already, and you probably have, let's be honest, any projects and planning you did at the start of the year has probably been lost, has probably stopped. You've probably stopped following it. And it's a good time just to reset and go, right, where are we with everything? What can we improve? What 1% little changes can we do in order to have the best possible end of year? And we think this should happen sort of every quarter, and it's an auditing of your agency.
It's a good back to basics, isn't it, really? It's a good thinking. It helps you spot the gaps. And when you're constantly pushing your agency forward, especially if you're like a one-man band or there's only 2 or 3 of you, it's really easy to focus on the forward progression, which is, of course, where you should be focused. But every now and again, you just need to go and sense check what you've done and what you are doing, because there might be some really obvious things. And as marketers, we know that something could work really, really well, and then we'll completely forget to do it again.
Yeah, and some of the things we're going to talk about in today's episode are pretty. I don't really like the word basic, because
Essentials.
anything's basic if you know how to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they're 1%ers, so we're not going to give you anything that is going to change your whole business. But if you do all of these, then it might add 10% of productivity or 10% of profit, turnover, whatever it may be, results, leads. So that's what an audit should do. It's not going to be a whole new brand or whatever it.
And we'll also turn this into a little checklist as well. So if you go to ajmastermind.co.uk/agency audit, you'll be able to get a copy of this checklist sent directly to you, and then you can use it yourself to go through your agency.
So we'll start with number one. Number one is one thing that I think every single agent has, and that's a website.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have been asked before, do I even need a website? I think purely for social proof and
reassurance.
Yeah, and then maybe an education to some people that you kosher, you do need a website. Now, I don't believe that you need a super fancy £10,000, £20,000 website.
Well, people will know that if they see our website.
Yeah, our website is pretty pants and hasn't changed for years. But we focus purely on a target audience of who it's for. So it looks like it's for the right person, and then how easy is it for them to do business with us? And they're the things I want you to check, really. So we've got a list of things. But the first thing is thinking about who are your sellers, who's your ideal client that you want to do business with. And that could be people that are looking for a purple bricks type product. So is your competition the onlines? Do you get called out evaluations where you compete with the onlines? If so, then that's where your website needs to be aimed at, in terms of the language, in terms of the colours, in terms of the usability, in terms of images. Everything needs to be tagged at that person.
And the words that it's found for, so the SEO. So when somebody types in cheap estate agency near me, you need to be appearing in the list.
Yeah. And just as a quick example of that, if you are in a really cheap area of the world, Benidorm.
I don't think it's that cheap. Let's go for Indonesia.
No, that won't work. So Benidorm, a Rolex shop in Benidorm is probably not going to work.
Okay.
It might get robbed.
I get you.
But it's probably not going to work. So Rolex aren't going to set up in Benidorm. They're going to set up in Miami or somewhere, Abu Dhabi or somewhere like that. So think about who is looking at a website and how do you want them to feel and how do you want them to find you. So target audience is a really big thing. Do you talk about SEO and GMB?
Yeah, so the first thing that I look at when I'm looking at somebody's website is when I first type in their company name, is how their website appears in the search results at that point. You know, do you even know that about your own website? What does it say? There's you can tweak your website a little bit so you have a little bit of a menu on Google search results. But most websites are just going to appear with just the main link. And what does it say underneath that link? You know, I've seen websites to estate agency links, and they'll just say the name of one of the houses they've got listed underneath. So what's the preview? Have you got ours on there?
Yeah, so just to prove that
ours is rubbish.
that we can preach it, but So ours is absolutely crap, actually. It says Ashdown Jones, Ashdown space Jones, which is incorrect. Dash, Ashdown Jones, without a space, which is correct. But why it says it twice, I'm not sure. And then dash, selling unique homes in ... And then the menu below, which I think are they taken from the most popular pages?
Yeah, it's taken from your schema markup, which we need to address.
Yeah, so number 1 is Our Homes.
Yeah,
Probably,
that's okay.
Probably fair enough.
Yeah.
Number 2, Property Archive, page 3 of 12.
That's awful.
So that should be something about, in fact, Our Home should probably be second. Number 1 should be something about how,
Our story or something.
or how someone works with you.
Or tell us about your unique home.
Yeah. Number 3, Story, that's okay. Number 4, Properties Archive, page 5 of 12.
Oh my God, this is awful.
And number 6, Talk to Us. So that's okay. And then on the right hand side is obviously the Google My Business stuff.
Mm-hmm. So let's go on to Google My Business. So just read out a bit of our Google My Business.
So go back. So you mentioned the schema. So how would somebody? So first of all, do this. Google your agency, and then you'll see the menu underneath your agency name. How do people change that?
So that you change it, you need a web developer for it. You can't do this yourself. I couldn't do it myself, but it's called the schema markup, which is basically the part of your website that tells Google what to rank in what order, or not what to rank, but what to pull out as like an index. So it's kind of like the bare bones of your website. And it'll tell. So if you're John Lewis and you've got 50,000 pages, you need a really decent schema markup to show Google which bits to show, because you might not want your most popular page on there. Your most popular page might be a sale product that has already sold, after Christmas or something. So it might not be relevant today. So you need to be constantly teaching and updating Google as to exactly what it should be showing in that list. And that is what a web developer will do for you. So it's in the back end of your website where you can't see it. It's part of the coding.
Right. Okay. And how much would that cost?
They shouldn't pay much. In fact, if you've got an industry website where people are already doing this kind of thing on a monthly basis for you, you're paying like a monthly update fee, that should be included in it. Otherwise, you can probably pay an overseas web developer, I don't know, $50 or something every now and again to just update it. And then you check it by going on to probably an incognito window and just check that it's working again. It does take Google a while to catch up, so there's things you can do to accelerate that. But again, a web dev should do this for you. All these things, of course, you can do for yourself. You can go and research it on YouTube and figure it out. But your job, if you're listening to this podcast, is listing and selling houses. So focus on that and let somebody else do this job for you.
Yeah. And in that list, think about who you want to be using your website. So yes, I know some in the industry want as much buyer interest as possible, just in case Rightmove does whatever Rightmove does. If Rightmove does whatever it does, then we're all in the same boat, and there will be an answer.
And there's Zoopla, and there's On the Market.
Yeah. So our focus is how quickly and how easily can somebody with a nice house do business with us. So how what's the minimal number of clicks and how long will it take them to find that? So I've just searched Ashdown Jones in an incognito window. So I click on the top link, which is to our homepage, and then there's a big orange button that comes up. It says, selling the very best homes, the very best places. I've not seen this website
in a long time.
a long time.
It needs changing.
It is terrible. And then you click on
but the main points of it are good. The essentials are there.
Yeah. So we want, if somebody's coming on here to book a valuation, we don't want to distract them. We don't want to distract them with
properties for sale.
Yeah, property for sale or anything else. So at the top there's story, marketing, homes, the AJ blog, and talk to us. But right in the middle is a big orange button. Tell us about your unique home. So straight away we're saying that we're asking people to converse with us. We're asking them to book a valuation effectively, but also qualifying it by saying unique home. So it's very clear who we're targeting. And that comes up, and there's a form for them to fill in, which is name, email, telephone, and a quick message, and then send. And that comes straight through to us, and then we would pick up the phone to book a valuation. So within 1, 2, and a bit of typing, 3 clicks, somebody has been able to do business with us. Which
So
I
what
think
we're doing is
pretty
we're
good.
just trying to make it as easy as possible for them to do business with us, which is kind of what Amazon did to change the e-commerce industry. It just made it super easy to buy something.
Yeah.
I went to buy something yesterday. We're having a little Easter party on Sunday with all the kids. And I wanted to buy some Easter buckets. I think I bought them within probably 2 minutes. All my details are already stored. Of course, you know this if you use Amazon. It's one click ordering and they'll be here today. I mean, you can't get any easier than that. And you've got no chance for buyer's remorse because it's done so fast. You're on to the rest of your life.
Yeah, there's a bit of a misnomer about Amazon that people think its USP is price or the amount of products. It's all about ease and speed.
It's ease and speed, yeah.
It's actually quite expensive. If you look elsewhere, sometimes things are much cheaper.
Well, if you've noticed TikTok Shop, if you find the same thing from TikTok Shop on Amazon, it's so much more expensive on Amazon than it is on TikTok Shop. Exactly the same product, exactly the same suppliers. So, yes, you're absolutely right. So going back to something else to notice about our homepage, if you go on to ashdownjones.co.uk, is the only time you see a call to action button, by which it means an action, then that is in orange. And nowhere else will you see on the site any other orange. So if there's an orange thing on the site, it is clickable and it is part of a call to action. And that is really important because what we see is, let's say your branding is, beautiful and, I don't know, purple and gold. We'll see that you're probably trying to use that purple in all your buttons or the gold in, something clickable. But actually, that's not the right thing to do. What's the right thing to do is, which you won't want to do, is use something that's opposite on the colour wheel, which is probably something like orange or green, which I know you won't want with your beautiful purple and gold branding, but you do want people to click. And so make it easy for them to see that button. Don't assume that just because you know where all the buttons are on your website and what they do, that somebody else who's never seen your website can do it. In fact, if you sit there with like an 8-year-old and you watch over their shoulder and say, right, go on our website and do these things, how quickly can they do it? Where are they navigating to? What are they getting distracted by? Because that's really what you want. You want to make it super, super simple. Or maybe an even older grandma than me that can sit there and do it. I know. Can you even find one?
I can't, no. So that's website. Spend some time looking through there. Try and look at it as a neutral. So how would somebody feel and how would your ideal client feel going onto the website? Is the right content? Is the right colours, pictures? How easy is it to do business? Number 2 is socials. A similar...
Oh, can we just, go back one step? We didn't do Google My Business.
I thought you did.
No, I didn't. I mentioned it and then you distracted me from it. So Google My Business is just to make sure that you've claimed your Google My Business profile. It's actually pretty simple too. I'm not going to go through the steps now, but make sure that it's what you want it to say, that the images are up to date, which ours are definitely not. That the images are actually of your business and not something that somebody else has put on there that Google thinks is your business. You can dictate most of the stuff that goes on in Google My Business. It's basically a little panel that comes up on desktop on the right-hand side of a search that shows what Google thinks your business is. So what it does, where it is, there might be a little map on there if you're a locational business, which we are. There will be also all your reviews in there. So it all sits in one neat panel that Google feels is most helpful to somebody that's looking for an estate agent or a hairdresser or a plumber. So use it to your advantage. Make sure that you have all the right information in there and that you're not embarrassed by anything that comes up when somebody Googles you.
Okay. Number 2, socials, similar. So in terms of think about who your audience is and what you would like your audience to do from your socials. So we try and focus on the sellers on our socials for a couple of reasons. One reason is that most of our buyers come out of areas, so it'd be pretty pointless. And number 2 is that we feel like if our ideal social audience is a seller that's going to sell in probably 5 years time, then how do we warm them up to guarantee they come to us in 5 years? Throwing random property listings at them for 5 years will probably turn them off rather than turn them on. So
well, the point is a property listing would only ever be relevant if it's exactly what they're looking for and in their time frame. What's the chances of that? That's a needle in a haystack. And you want somebody to follow you for many years and have lots of interactions with you and refer you. But if you're just going to throw offers at them all the time, or I'm saying offers because I'm thinking like if you were going to follow Tesco online, you wouldn't expect to get offers of bread in your newsfeed every day. You'd expect to get recipes and community news and just nice things that are engaging to read. They don't keep saying to you, buy from us, buy from us, buy from us. Whereas they just exhaust their audience.
Yeah.
So you've got to have something that captures your audience's attention and engagement and holds it throughout possibly a generation.
Yeah. So reading through your posts, does it feel like it gives off a personality that you would like it to? Does it feel like you? Does it feel like a corporate solicitors, which many agents seem to feel like they have to go down?
Yeah, especially if you can do things like automate your property feed onto your Facebook, which you'd never ever do.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it's going to feel like. And the point of buying you as an agency, if you're listening to this, you're almost certainly an independent agent, right? So all the things that you pride yourself on are the opposite of what a corporate agent would do. So you pride yourself on really caring about your clients, going the extra mile, being available for them, probably many more hours than you should be. And, doing absolutely everything you can to get a sale across the line because it matters so much to you. All those things also matter to the vendor that's chosen you. So that's how you should be portraying yourself on your socials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and about portraying how to portray yourself, is there different post types? So is there some video? Is there live video? Is there shots of behind the scenes houses? Are there local images? Is there a wide selection of post types to maximize engagement, and also to tell Facebook that or to tell the socials that you are trying to engage different audiences?
Yeah, so we've talked about our BLAST formula before on the pod, and we'll link to one of the episodes in the show notes. But BLAST simply stands for behind the scenes, local spotlight, a day in the life, showcase for a home, and tips and advice. And they're just 5 different kinds of posts. And most of our posts, if not all, fall into one of those 5. Bit of a formula that you can just give to your team and go, just do this. And if they're only doing properties, they're only doing the showcase of a home. And you'll see that. So if you do a quick audit of the last 10, 20 posts, you'll be able to see very quickly that you've got too many of one kind of post and not enough of another. And the idea is to get a spread so that everybody's interested. And some people worry that they're posting too much. We post 4 times a day every day, so 20 posts a week. And what we find is that our followers probably only see one of those posts a week. So they're seeing 1 in 20 just because of the Facebook algorithm.
Yeah, Facebook won't let you overpost.
No, it's impossible. You could post 100 times a day and your audience will probably only see 1 post a week.
Unless
they start engaging.
The audience tells Facebook it wants more.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So you can only underpost. If you underpost, Facebook will just stop showing it to anybody. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're at least hitting 4 or 5 posts a day of different post types with an idea of what you're trying to do with a strategy behind what you're posting.
Yeah. And even though people aren't necessarily directly commenting and engaging, people do see your posts. We regularly get people telling us that they've seen our posts. Oh, I saw that lovely post you did the other night, or I saw you were doing such and such. But they haven't actually directly commented and engaged. And so also don't look at the reach on Facebook, because it seems to me that the reach number is broken at the moment. It quite often says on ours, reach 0. And then we've had 3 comments. Yeah. So it's clearly not working at the moment. So don't worry too much about the reach. Just think about if somebody came to my page deliberately and scroll down it because they want to know more about us as an agency, am I proud of what they're going to see in those last 5 or 10 posts? That's how I would look at it.
Number 3 of the things to audit in your agency is lead generation. And the first thing to think about is, do you actually have a lead generation strategy?
With the emphasis on the generation.
Yeah, and just a clue of what we mean by lead gen strategy, brand awareness and referrals isn't really a key strategy. We'll explain more in number 5, but having a lead generation strategy that has a funnel within it, so you can go, right, this is the lever that we pull, this is something we do. It could be social posts, it could be we use direct mail and sales letters, it could be a Facebook ad spend or any Meta ad spend, Google spend, it could be anything like that. There has to be a number of of an output at the top of the funnel in order for it to be a clear strategy. And then that's waterfalls down into number of evaluations eventually, and hopefully number of instructions. So you always have a plan of how that looks. And then if you do have that, and if you listen to this, you should have that by now. I want you to go into it and think about these three things in order to audit the actual strategy. So first of all, market. Is the lead generation strategy got a clear target audience, a clear market for who you're trying to attract? And then if that has clarity, what does that audience want to hear from you? So as an example, if you're targeting the high-end homes, they don't really want to hear about cheap and offers and fee saving. But if you're targeting the cheaper end of homes, they probably do want to hear about freebies and offers and free conveyancing and etc. So think about very clearly who your market is, and therefore what message then you're going to portray within that lead gen strategy. And the third thing is medium. So where are these people? So if, again, going back to the first example, if your target audience is high-end properties, putting an advert or putting loads of content on TikTok probably isn't the right thing to do because they won't see it, generally speaking. If your target audience is locals, local first-time buyers or local first-time sellers, they might be on TikTok. So that might be the right place to post your content. So thinking about exactly where those people are and where they will see your message and what message they want to see is a good thought process in order to maximize any lead generation strategy.
Yeah, I think what you said at the beginning is the important bit, really, which is that so many agents come to us and they say, I've tried everything and I can't get any more valuations. Well, trying everything might mean going to B&I. That's what they mean by trying everything. It might be advertising in the local paper, which I heard that an agent that we know is doing. So they've gone back to print advertising in the local paper, and think about if you had a gun to your head, how would you get 5 more valuations next week? If you absolutely had to do it, if it was real make or break, where would you go? You wouldn't go to B&I and you wouldn't advertise in the local paper. You would probably go door knocking.
I would go door knocking.
You would. You absolutely would. So what else can you do to make sure you do get these valuations? The valuations aren't going to come to you. You have to find a way to move that lever in your favor when you need to move it. And if you don't have a lever to move, then that's where the lead generation is broken. And this can apply to you if you're a brand new agent and you don't know that there are any levers to move and you don't know what you should be doing. But it can also very much apply to somebody who's been in business for 30 years, who's so used to the vals coming to them that all that's happened is over time, your business has got weaker and weaker and weaker because you're not going to get a high value home if all you're waiting for is leads to come to you. We know this from our experience of working with lots of agents that have been in business for decades, where their average fee is probably where it was 30 years ago because they're not selling £1 million homes anymore. They're selling £250,000 homes because referrals only waterfall one way. They don't go up, they go down. And so if you're going to rely on organic, you are strangling your business all the time.
Yeah, and you're giving money away. It's one thing I like about this industry that if you're selling a service, then you have to do lots of, it's either cold calling on the phone, which is quite difficult to do, or it's complicated funnels and sales and etc. With property, you can literally go knock on someone's door, and it's quite easy with a little bit of skill to convert on the doorstep into a valuation, and then so I think you can, anybody listening can add at least £100,000 to their likely turnover of the year in a week, and in any other industry that's quite hard to do.
It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you sell more cars if you were a car garage? How could you suddenly add another 5 sales to your garage, to your business in a week?
Yeah,
I don't know how you could do it. You can't go door knocking for a car garage.
No, No.
But you can do it for houses. We're in a pretty privileged industry, really.
Yeah. It's a
Okay.
funny industry, but number 4 is numbers. So from a real basic numbers point, what was your target for the year financially? What have you banked so far? What percentage of that does that equate to? What's your pipeline? Are you on track? If not, what are you going to do about it? That's the simplest level. What I wouldn't want anyone to do is get to the end of the year and go, oh, we missed it by 200k, or we missed it, or we're over by 100k, but not really have an idea of why that happened or at what point that happened, and didn't have the opportunity to tweak things and to try and catch up. I think if that has been you in previous years, that's a problem from a planning point of view. So really, you probably haven't planned properly in order to how you're going to hit that number. Because if you've planned properly, so I was this year's $1 million. So a real, I say simple figure. It's a round figure by what I mean by simple.
It's not easy. It's just simple.
No, yeah, it's not easy. So, but
and it's a really nice stretch target for us.
But we know every week if we're on target or not. We know exactly the number of valuations we need, instructions we need, sales we need in order to hit it. So at any point, we just gone past our Q1 and we measured if we're on track, and we're actually ahead of where we need to be.
We're at 29%.
At 29
for the year after the end of Q1.
Yeah, end of Q1. Yeah. So therefore, we can look at the figures and go, actually, we're probably about right in terms of all our numbers. Now, if that was 19%, then we would have to go back into the numbers and go, right, we probably need an extra valuation a week or an extra instruction a week. And then how do we do that? What do we need to plug in? And it gives you an opportunity to actually hit your targets and not get to the end of the year and go, gee, what happened there?
I also think that people focus on the wrong things where we know they do, particularly fairly new agents. In fact, I had an agent that's not fairly new, if you're listening to this, Mr. D, messaged me the other day and said he's managed to get a high-value home. It was a really lovely home. For him, that's about 500,000, and it wasn't selling. What else could he do to sell it? I said, you're focusing on the wrong things. So just because you're short of your revenue target doesn't mean to say you should then try and sell your stock. You should be focusing entirely on listing, on the beginning of the funnel, on getting more valuations to get more listings, because then when something does sell in your area, it's going to be most likely to be yours and not somebody else's. Whereas if you're focusing on selling, I mean, how much can you really move that as a lever? That's not a lever. It's a lever when we've got 80 on the market at the moment. So we've got a lever that we can pull to make sure we're selling more houses. But if we didn't have the 80, we shouldn't be focusing on anything else other than just getting more stock.
Yeah. And there are very simple systems you can plug in order to give yourself the best chance of selling the properties without spending your life trying to sell them.
Yeah. But that's more of a tick list. It's not wasting your time and your energy and waking up in the middle of the night thinking, I need to get another photograph of the kitchen.
But the answer to every problem is list. Mm-hmm. Every problem I've ever heard of that's to do with sales, marketing, financials, fees.
Well, we worked with an agency that are fairly new. They've been open about a year now. And they in the end, in order to carry on listing at the rate they were, because the letters were working so well for them, they had to take out a loan or borrow more money from parents to get them across that lean period. What they could have done was stop listing. And that's what 99% of agents will do. When they run out of money, they'll stop listing. And that's the kiss of death. Because where are you going to go from there?
Yeah. Yep. And then number 5 is the saleability of your business. And this is an important one, even if you're not considering selling. Or,
well, especially if you're not really. Yeah. Because you'd be preempting it, aren't you?
If you have the belief that you'll never sell, if your business is saleable, then it means it's profitable. It means it's well run. It means it's systemized. It means it's got all the right processes in place. So a simple way to test this is in your office ask somebody to do a very simple job. So it may be to book a viewing in, and then ask them to show you the exact sheet that shows how to fulfill that task. And if there isn't a task sheet for every single one of the jobs, then your team has to create a task sheet. What you want is somebody to be able to come into the business day one, and they'll be able to do the key jobs within the business. So
Well, what you got to think about is what are you actually selling? Because if you're a sales only agency and you've only got, I don't know, £100,000 pipeline, what do you think you're selling? You're not selling you because you're not going to be there. If it's your name across the door, then you're not even selling a brand. So what are you actually selling? And the only thing you can sell, if you're McDonald's, you're selling your how-to. You're selling your manual of exactly how to make a burger. It's exactly the same in every single country in the world.
Yeah, so McDonald's is a really good example, because McDonald's could sell restaurants on their brand. However, if they didn't sell the how-to, so where to buy this from, how to put the Big Mac together, how to put the sauce, how to box it up, how to do everything, then they would slowly lose customers, because you wouldn't know what you're getting. And the best thing about McDonald's is you always know what you're getting, whether you like it or not. You know what you're getting.
They're selling consistency, aren't they? And predictability.
And that's why they can charge so much for a franchise. And if I don't even know who owns McDonald's, but if they ever decide to sell, the value there is the knowledge from the customer of, yes, brand, but the brand comes from of the consistency of products, and that comes from the task sheets and the processes. And I mean, I've watched. There's a lady who speaks, who's ex McDonald's.
Yeah, there is. I can't remember her name. Yeah, that sounds right.
And she's spoken about it, that for every tiny job within the restaurant, there's a task sheet. So if something's not done, well, they go back to the task sheet. Well, why isn't this done? And that's how they're measured. And it just makes business really simple.
It does it makes building the business simple. Imagine that tomorrow you are offered, £500,000 to franchise your company. What steps would you take to get it franchisable? How could you be absolutely certain that your business, let's say Ashdown Jones, could open tomorrow in Cornwall? Because we've got everything that they need to be able to open a new branch and run it exactly the same as Ashdown Jones in Windermere.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, you've got something that isn't saleable, isn't scalable, and you can't duck out. I mean, you might have noticed at the beginning of this podcast episode, I said I was poorly. If Phil hadn't been here over the last few weeks and I'd had to take a significant amount of time off, the business would not have changed whatsoever. But if you're listening to this and your business would have changed for the worst if you'd had to take a few weeks off because you were poorly, then that's where you need to start. How do you cover your own job? Because no one person in the business shouldn't be dependent on one person in the business being there and active every single day. Otherwise, you've not got a business. You've just got you.
Yeah, and again, I guess that's the unsexy side of business, and that's really quite a lot of the focus of Mastermind. What we're talking about in Mastermind, where I think people join Mastermind for ideas of how to grow and lead gen and marketing ideas, but really, once you've got those key things in place, the structure and systems and processes are the key to most company success.
Do you think that people, and when I say people, agency owners, don't want to do it because they feel like they're going to be taking the heart and soul out of their agency when they do it?
I just don't think companies know it's a thing. So we had a company in with us on Monday that has previously been owned by 4 very successful local entrepreneurs. Is now owned by a multi-millionaire, and they have absolutely zero processes or systems within, or structure or anything.
Well, interesting, there were 6 people in the room, and the gaps and overlaps in their jobs was astounding. But the answer that they all had to getting more done and being more productive was to hire more staff. But they're hiring more staff into a broken system. They don't know if they need more staff because their jobs aren't systemized or their roles aren't clear at all. There's no org chart. Nobody knows who's reporting to whom, and nobody's actually doing just one job that they're really good at.
No. So that made me think, actually, this is probably 90% of business, if not more than that. Unless you're a big corporate, it's probably most businesses.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, when you think about the amount of discretion, and that's the key word, I think. If you have to apply, or your staff have to apply discretion over and over again every day, that's the bit that's broken, because there's at no time does anybody in McDonald's ever have to apply discretion. Even if it's a complaint or if it's a water leak, they will have a process for it.
Yeah.
So somebody else that's already been there and done it many, many years ago, possibly even generations ago, has already set up a system that's going to save you from yourself when something happens today. And that's the bit that's missing in most businesses.
Yeah, and all this McDonald's is making me hungry, so we're going to have to leave it there.
Okay, so that was how to use these 5 levers in your agency. So which levers to use, how to use them to make sure that you're auditing and progressing your agency across these 5 levers. So 1 was website, 2 is socials, 3 is lead gen, 4 is your numbers, and 5 is saleability of your agency. And as I said earlier, if you would like this checklist to be sent directly to you, just go to ajmastermind.co.uk/agency audit and we'll get it straight over to you.